So hello guys, and welcome to another video. And now that Mario & Luigi Brothership is out, we're at the end of Nintendo's big push for Mario RPGs on the Switch. However, I still think this is just the beginning of the Mario RPG renaissance, since there's quite a lot that they can do. So in this video, I wanted to talk about each of the big Mario RPG series, and discuss what they could do next, presumably on the Switch too. So, the first one is Super Mario RPG, and the remake sold really well for Mario RPG standards, about the same as Origami King at 3 million, if not more at this point, because they haven't updated the sales since, earlier this year. So it probably sold, a little more than Origami King, I would say. And the director of the original game, or one of the directors, showed interest in making a sequel before he retired, and he recently had involvement in Mario & Luigi Brothership as event game designer, which means he still is involved with, game development, and that's probably why he wasn't involved with the remake. So there's a possibility that he would be involved with a sequel if they're planning on making one. And Nintendo also seems to be making sequels to a lot of their remakes. Famicom Detective Club got Emio, Link's Awakening got Echoes of Wisdom, even though that technically wasn't a sequel in the timeline sense, it more was a sequel in terms of the style of Link's Awakening. And then, well, I mean, I guess it was kind of a sequel in terms of the timeline, because technically it is after, but they're technically in a different section. It's complicated. I could talk about that in another video, but it technically is a sequel. And then 2D Metroid, Samus Returns got Metroid Dread. That's another thing that isn't technically a direct sequel, but it's still a sequel in the sense of that style, getting a new game associated with it. So they seem to be making a lot of new games in the style of their remakes. So that definitely makes this likely, especially due to the fact that Nintendo sees that a lot of people are interested in it. And RT Piazza, the developer of the Super Mario RPG remake, also doesn't look like it has a very busy schedule in terms of games that they are developing. So it definitely seems like they are the ones developing this sequel, if this is in development currently. And I think there's a lot that they could do with a Super Mario RPG sequel. I feel like they would probably have to bring back Geno and Mallow just due to the fact that they are so heavily tied with Super Mario RPG and that game's identity. So, I mean, if they made a sequel to Super Mario RPG 25 years ago, then I guess it would have made a little more sense to not have Geno or Mallow in it, kind of like how the Paper Mario or Mario & Luigi games have different characters for each game. But I feel like a sequel to Super Mario RPG might have to bring back some of the characters from the original. I think that would make a lot of sense. But I think it could be pretty interesting what they would do with it and everything, since I feel like the original gameplay formula, even though it was technically expanded upon in both Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi, I feel like the remake kind of took the formula in its own direction, and they can continue to build off of that combo system that the remake has. So I think there's a lot that they could do with the sequel to Super Mario RPG. And I expect this to be released sometime around 2027, probably as a holiday title, since that worked out pretty well for the remake, and I feel like Nintendo would definitely see value for doing that again. Especially looking at Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening, those were both released in September, so it seems like Nintendo is kind of consistent for when they release, I guess, sequels or new games in the style of their remakes. So yeah, I would definitely expect that to be one of their holiday titles. And then moving on to Paper Mario, the one that I am definitely most interested in. While Thousand Year Door didn't sell quite as well as some people were expecting, it likely sold well enough in Nintendo's eyes, considering that the fact that it's a remake released in late in the Switch's lifespan. They were probably expecting it to sell around 2 million anyway, so this probably did pretty well for them. And another factor is the fact that it scored really well among most reviewers, and it actually beat the original score on Metacritic, which is almost unheard of for a remake. Like, almost every remake I've seen, especially for Mario games, get a lower score than the original, like sometimes even a considerably lower score than the original, but Thousand Year Door actually scored better, which was incredible. So, and that definitely would send a message to Nintendo, I would say. That combined with the fact that it probably sold sufficiently well for them. So Nintendo has a lot of incentive to release a Paper Mario game that finally expands upon the first 2 games, and 3 games with Super Paper Mario from a story perspective. So Thousand Year Door, with the remake, it almost feels like sort of a soft reboot in a similar way that Sticker Star did, but instead of creating a completely new formula, it's merging the classic formula with the modern style. So I'm expecting the next game to kind of build off of that. Like, I'm expecting it to have that same paper doll style, but with like the paper cutout look that Thousand Year Door had. With the character designs having a mix of Thousand Year Door's character designs with a couple of the modern ones sprinkled in. Like, I'd like to see like the modern Dry Bones design, or like the modern Monty Mole or Yoshi designs. I think those would be fitting in like a Thousand Year Door style game. But things like the Koopa, Goombas, Boos, different things like that, I think they will still probably keep the Thousand Year Door designs for those. Just because, like, at this point, I feel like Nintendo is fine with bringing back, like, heavily stylized designs that don't look exactly like their, kind of main series, kind of, regular counterparts. Like, I mean, even Mario Wonder is kind of straying away from, like, the regular designs for, like, some of these enemies and things, since the Boos kind of look like their Super Mario World or Super Mario Bros. 3 counterparts with, like, the artwork in those games, or, like, the Wiggler as well, and a lot of other enemies in Wonder, like, kind of are straying away from, like, this stock Mario style. So I feel like Paper Mario could probably do the same. Like, there's nothing stopping them at this point. Like, especially with the Thousand Year Door remake being a thing. So, yeah. And I'm expecting the gameplay to be similar to Thousand Year Door. I mean, I think it would be amazing if they brought back the 64,000 Year Door formula. I really hope they do. But they could also do new things with it. Like, add a new mechanic comparable to Brothership's battle plugs. I'm not saying it has to be exactly like that. Just something comparable on that level. It doesn't have to change the badge system. It could be something else. Like, they could maybe change how the action commands work. Maybe they could make, like, rhythm-based action commands. Maybe they could make craftable badges. That would be really cool. There's, like, a lot of possibilities they could do with this. I know a lot of people say that, like, Thousand Year Door is, like, the peak of the formula, which is why they haven't gone... I don't think that's why they haven't gone back to it. I think it's more so, like, Super wanting to have a different gameplay formula, and then Sticker Star trying to be different. It's really more of the series trying to be different, rather than Thousand Year Door peaking in that gameplay formula, because I still think there's a lot that they could do with the 64 and Thousand Year Door gameplay formula. There's still a lot of potential for it, because it was really only worked with in 2 games. So, I definitely think there's more they could do with it. And I feel like the world design would likely be similar to Origami King's. It may even have more open areas and open world elements to it. I think it would be better for intelligent systems to have more of the experimental elements in the overworld rather than in the battle system. I mean, yes, I do want them to add interesting things in the battle system, but if they want to do, like, wacky, experimental, interesting things, like they did in Origami King, I think they should do that more in, like, the overworld. Like, have, like, kind of, like, wacky puzzles and things. Just, they could go all out in the overworld, but just keep the battle system intact. And I think for the next Paper Mario game, I think that will likely be released around 2027 too. I know that sounds close to the Super Mario RPG sequel, but I think it will probably be around early 2027. The Thousand Year Door remake was finished in 2023 during the summer, which was like nearly a year before the remake released, so it was likely already in development for a year and a half. So I think it will likely kind of break the 4-year cycle that we usually get for Paper Mario games and release a little sooner than expected. So I'm expecting 2027 for this one too. And next we have the Mario and Luigi series. So Acquire did an amazing job with Mario and Luigi Brothership, but it's a bit too soon to see how the game performed sales-wise. I'm not too worried about it though, despite some of the initial kind of sales numbers being a little lackluster. I'm not too worried about that, because we'll probably get a big boost during the holiday sales that are going on right now. And there's also the uncertainty that Sony will buy out Acquire's parent company, which is concerning, but that is still up in the air. So for now, let's just assume that Acquire will continue to work with Nintendo and they aren't going to be bought out. So we'll just kind of work with that hypothetical scenario here. There are a lot of possibilities that they could do for the next Mario and Luigi game, but I have 3 ideas for things that I want from the next game. One is a remake of Partners in Time. I think this would work really well in Brothership style due to its linear design and fairly limited scope, which wouldn't be too hard to work with in HD. It would also help some of the non-former Alpha Dream devs get used to the Mario and Luigi formula. I know Partners in Time technically had a slightly different formula in terms of its battle system, but still, at its core, it is a very good Mario and Luigi game. So I'd still like to see that kind of work with there. It would also be really nice seeing that game remade as well, since that was originally skipped when Alpha Dream was remaking like some of the older Mario and Luigi games with Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story. So it would be nice to finally see that game remade. And another idea that I have for a new Mario and Luigi release is a redo of Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. It doesn't have to be the same exact game as Paper Jam, or the same exact story, whatever semblance of a story that game had, but like, it doesn't have to be like a remake or anything of Paper Jam. Just the same idea kind of being brought back, but executed better. Like a crossover with Paper Mario that actually pulls from 64, Thousand Year Door, and Super Paper Mario, maybe even Origami King as well, I wouldn't mind that, rather than just Sticker Star. Almost similar to how Mario Party Superstars was kind of a redo of Top 100. Paper Jam had so much missed potential. Like, so much missed potential that you could make a whole game out of it. So that's why I think it would be a good idea if they kind of revisited that concept. Especially with Acquire, since they wouldn't have that same pressure that Alpha Dream had by Nintendo or Hinsuke Tanabe, or like any of the other like factors during the 2010s that kind of held back Paper Jam. And hey, they might even have an idea of how to make a more interesting crossover with Paper Mario. The fact that they, like, Alpha Dream didn't have that many ideas for Paper Jam, I feel like that was more of an excuse to say that they weren't allowed to do things with Paper Jam. I really think that was the case, honestly, but I think that's a discussion for another day. But finally, the final outcome is a completely original idea, which I think is probably the most likely outcome. Kind of similar to Brothership, which would also be nice, because it's always nice to have like a completely new idea, a game with its own identity and everything with Brothership, like considering how well Brothership turned out and everything. So I'd like to see more like really wacky and interesting ideas like that. So yeah, but that one is the most obvious choice. But the next game will probably be released around 2028, a year after both Paper Mario and Mario RPG. I think that's probably when it's going to be released and everything, unless it's a remake of Partners in Time. Then I could see it be released like a little earlier than that. But with the fact that HD development takes a while, I think 2028 makes the most sense for the next game. And finally, we have Mario plus Rabbids, which is the only branch of the Mario RPGs that has a good chance of not coming back at all. It's kind of funny when you think about it, because, well, and a little sad too, because Sparks of Hope was really good. But, like, it's kind of ironic, because the Mario plus Rabbids series, we kind of thought of that as the replacement to Mario and Luigi for a little while, and now Mario and Luigi is technically the replacement for Mario plus Rabbids. I mean, not on an official sense or anything, but like just kind of for fans expecting like a certain branch of the Mario RPGs. But there's a few reasons for why Mario plus Rabbids might not come back. One was Ubisoft not being satisfied with the sales of Sparks of Hope. That might have changed though, once the game later shot up to 3 million in sales, but I'm not really gonna give Ubisoft a lot of credit, because they've made a lot of terrible decisions lately, and they might not even feel like bringing back Mario plus Rabbids. I mean, like, look at how they treat Rayman. Do you really think they have that much respect for Mario plus Rabbids? Probably not. But there were also multiple people in the team behind Mario plus Rabbids from Ubisoft Milan that left and formed a new studio. So that also decreases its chances as well. So I think there's a very low chance that the series is coming back, which is really unfortunate, because I feel like there's a lot of ideas that they could have like gone with, like just especially like coming after Sparks of Hope. Like, it's definitely pretty disappointing. So the future is definitely uncertain for this series. And really, the only way I could see the Mario plus Rabbids crossover element continuing is if they do something completely different. Like maybe a spin-off series with a completely different gameplay formula developed by a different team. The Rabbids or Mario Rabbids characters appearing in Mario Kart. I wouldn't even be opposed to a Mario or a Rabbids crossover with another Mario series, like Mario and Luigi. I think it would be cool to see like a Paper Jam-esque crossover for that, as long as it's not generic as Paper Jam. But yeah, it's definitely pretty uncertain for this branch of the Mario RPGs, which definitely is pretty unfortunate since it is the most recent branch of the Mario RPGs. And yes, I do consider Mario plus Rabbids to be a part of the Mario RPGs, because they are technically RPGs. So yeah, but anyways, those are my thoughts on how the Mario RPGs will kind of continue going into the Switch 2 era. So it's pretty interesting. I definitely think the RPGs will keep going in the future, and will definitely I feel like Nintendo will definitely see the value in continuing them consistently in a similar way to how they did in the 2000s. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Goodbye.